Hey, what's up, everybody? This is A.L. Johnson with Elevating Men. Thanks for tuning in to another show. Really excited to have you with us. Hold on one second. All right, we had to mute Lojo because he's rolling. He got some things going on or whatever, but never mind that. We're going to keep going. Nothing stops the show, right? So today we are on part 2 of our old school versus new school generational breakdown. Over the course of this series, we're picking different topics. We want to see where we differ based on the generation we were born in. You know, what's good, what needs to be thrown in the trash, and how can we mesh it all together for a better community. And so that's the purpose of this conversation. Today, we're going to be talking about religion and politics. And so I have to give a little bit of a disclaimer. The thoughts and views expressed on this show are not necessarily the thoughts and views of Elevating Men or the people on the panel. And it's really a sad thing that I should have to put a disclaimer on a conversation that's so important. At the end of the day, when it comes to religion and politics, those are two things that permeate our lives, whether we wanted to or not. And so the fact that we tiptoe around the topic, I feel, is a problem. But we're going to dig into that and a lot more here in just a second. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. We're back. And so for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are Elevating Men. The purpose of this platform is to help men become the best version of themselves so that we can build better homes, better families, and ultimately better communities. To the right of me, I've got Andrew Boykin. He's the founder of Dinner and Dialogue, as well as The Restoration. Next to him is LaRon Barnes. He's our resident motivational speaker and life coach. Below him, we've got a special guest, Joshua. And below myself, I've got Lauren Jones. Lojo Speaks, who is the vice president of Elevated Men. So let's get into the conversation. We've got a couple people who are going to be joining us in the middle of it, but we're going to go ahead and get it started. So politics and religion. First question, we're just going to jump right into it. I'm going to start with you, AB, if that's all right. The first question is, just to get us started, we got to get a general consensus first. How do politics and religion intersect to you, right? How do they affect your decision making, and at any point do they contradict each other? We don't hear you.
So I was trying to look up the definition of politics just so that I can have a framework of what I'm about to make a guess at, and didn't get it right quick. But what I think politics is basically politicizing or speaking your points, and religion is the actual practice of something that you do based on what you're trying to achieve, be it goals, be it beliefs, be it building something. You do something religiously so that it can get done, or so that it can continue on within the process in which you want it to continue on. I mean, if you're going to bake a cake, you're going to follow the instructions. So with politics and religion, what you're doing is always speaking the process. So they're one and the same to me.
Interesting. LeBron, what are your thoughts on that? Where do politics and religion intersect, and can they create contradictions in your actions?
Now, say that last part about the contradiction in your actions. I missed that last part. I want to hear that real quick.
Yeah, can your political beliefs and your religious beliefs, kind of create a difference in the way that you act?
I believe, honestly, Andrew, that, and this is personal, that your spiritual beliefs are based on your morals and values. And when we look at politics will show you what your morals and values really are. And I believe sometimes, I don't want to jump ahead of it, but I believe that the real morals and values that we have is really based on the foundation of religion. And when we are looking into the political world and we begin to make decisions or vote or agree with this or that, we got to understand that everybody's not going to have our exact political beliefs or spiritual beliefs. So it's kind of like we got to decide where our values, what we value the most is. The things that we value the most, and then we got to be able to make decisions on those things. But I believe that it's kind of like a sticky it gets a little sticky, because not just because somebody may believe you in one area, you may believe in somebody's in one area, don't believe me, you believe in another. So it's kind of a sticky thing. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people don't like getting involved in it, because they believe, if they say believe one thing over here with one person, but it's different over here, someone else is going to judge them for it.
Definitely, definitely. Joshua, what are your thoughts? Same question.
Kind of similarly to how Laurent said, I think personally religion kind of shaped my values and morals, but I've since kind of shied away from what I was originally taught up, and I've split the two, both politics and religion. They still come in a little bit every once in a while, but for the most part, I keep them apart. And I think that's what we should be doing, just because, especially at least in America, we've got so many different people of different religions and different politics in general, that we should just try to keep it all apart and fair to everybody.
Good answer. So keeping politics and religion separate, that's something that I have for. And Lauren and Corey, for those of you who are just tuning in, definitely want to introduce Corey. He's got an awesome podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about it really quick?
Hey, thank you for having me today. Well, yes, man, just do a little show. It's on it's on YouTube. It's been growing, little by little, getting traction and everything. And man, what I just try to do, I just try to attack things from a practical standpoint, introduce, a different way of thinking, things that, sometimes it could be the popular opinion. A lot of times it may not be. So a lot of times I could get thrown into, kind of, the controversial light or anything. But I just try to, I deal with all type of things. I may talk about politics, the way our relationships, the way we deal with each other, and, just a whole broad, vast spectrum of things. So yeah, that's all I try to do.
I love your content, man. I love your content. It's always raw, honest truth. Whether you agree or disagree, you always have facts to back up your statements. And so I love that. That's why I wanted to have you on. How do people, find your podcast?
Oh, just find me on YouTube. Go to the grit culture, the grit culture.
Grit culture.
Yeah, the grit in all capitals. Yep.
Perfect. So I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm just going to frame it a little bit differently, but we're asking if a person's religious beliefs and their political beliefs can contradict each other, right? And if so, how do you make a decision on which one you actually go with? Josh brought up a good point about politics and religion need to be separate, so the separation of church and state. But then at the same time, they say that, the United States is a Christian country. Right. And so out of every single president, every time they address the country, they're talking about God, they're talking about these different things. And so what are your thoughts on that? Do religion and politics intersect?
They at times they do. More times than not, is one side is usually taking that side, usually kind of like the right, what they call the right wing today. They'll usually take that side. But politics and religion should never intersect, because as was stated earlier, they're theoretical in nature. The religion is theoretical in nature. Politics is something that involves everybody. What religion is a person's personal beliefs. Beliefs don't necessarily connotate the truth, right? And because it's theory doesn't necessarily mean it's not true either, but it's still put in a theoretical aspect. So everybody's involved with the political nature, the decisions that we make in the democratic way or whatnot, it's going to affect the next man. And so, yeah, those should definitely always be separated. But yeah, at times, they contradict themselves. They definitely contradict themselves when you hear them talk about, church and state, but they don't. I mean, not church and state, but they talk about, it being a Christian country, but you know, they definitely go against that. So, and as far as it being, politics shaping a person, I think a person should at least begin from a practical, y'all hear me say that word all the time, but at least begin from a practical standpoint and, just question things, see how the mechanics of things work and go from there, because anything can be, religion. That's how a lot of cults get, formed.
Right, right. Kind of like Andrew said, it's when you use the word religion, you're talking about religious actions or something that you do repetitively and consistently. And so that could definitely
Right.
be anything. Lojo, I can't tell if you froze up or not, man. You're so statuesque right now. Okay, there you go. Well, what's your opinion so far? All right, man. We ain't taking your opinion with all that noise in the background. So we'll get back to you a little later. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys like a little of my background and how I view this. So I grew up in church. I even went to a Christian school, right? So all of my upbringing was Bible based, right? Now whether I followed all of it or not the entire time, it's a whole different topic. But that's the way that I grew up. And the church that I grew up in, the pastor actually said that he encouraged us not to vote. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but he encouraged us against voting because he believed in full separation of church and state, meaning that, we would pray and, whatever God wanted to happen will happen. And the people that vote, they'll take care of those things. And so I grew up in a situation where politics really wasn't discussed. It was something that I sought out after I became an adult, and I saw that these things affect every area of my life. And so maybe I should get involved, right? One thing that I feel hurts a lot of people when it comes to their political decisions is that it's always run through the filter of religion. And so there are a lot of debates going on right now, whether we're talking about Roe versus Wade, where we talk about the legalization of marijuana. There's all these different things that, depending on where you fall religiously, you would think that would dictate the path that you vote on. And so, like Corey, you had said something earlier about generally the right wing is considered to be Christian. However, Democratic or Republican, all of the presidents speak as if we're in a Christian country, but our morals and values definitely don't line up with that. What type of environment mentally do you think that creates for children who are coming up in society now who can clearly see the contradiction? Because some of these things were kind of hidden to us before unless you sought it out. Now it's all over social media. They see the back and forth in the arguments. How does a child reconcile the contradiction in what we say versus what they obviously see?
Well, yeah, kids are catching on to that stuff very quickly. They're catching on to it quickly, and it just creates more what can I say? Just distrust, and the leaders the leaders that are there today. Now, does it always come to that? It gets manipulated to an extent, but yeah, no, just ultimately it creates distrust because we can openly see these things, which may be a good thing. Maybe people do need to learn to distrust, so we learn how to take things into our own hands, understand what we're dealing with. That's why I'm always for let it all be put out there. Let everything be out there, put on display for the world to see, and so you know exactly how to navigate through this world. But yeah, no, it's a clear contradiction in the way that they operate, both sides. And yeah, so it just shows you that there has to be another option. Has to be another option. There has to be other solutions that have to be implemented. It's easier said than done, but that's where the conversations have to begin within the communities.
For sure, for sure. Religion and politics is a tough subject, ain't it? Like, you don't want to say nothing wrong. You don't want to make anybody mad. Andrew, let me ask you this. So if we go back, we go back some years, it's my understanding that just say the civil rights movement, et cetera, the church was a big part of that. And a lot of political action was started and spurred up through the church, you know, through different congregations. You look at Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders, it started in the church. And so from your viewpoint, do you see any difference in the political nature of churches and how they played a role in our voting and our decision making versus now? And specifically, do you feel that things lined up more with the Bible and what they taught then versus now, the teachings of the Bible versus how they want us to vote politically?
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, I learned a lot just by listening to my family members who grew up in the 50s, 40s, 50s, and 60s in Montgomery, Alabama. And they also grew up in Birmingham right around the time of the bombing of the church and Martin Luther King. And my other cousins, they actually marched across the bridge in Selma with Martin Luther King. However, what they also said was that not all Black people supported Martin Luther King. Not all churches were in alignment. So therefore, what that said to me was the same Bible, the same God, the same Christian had different interpretations of that. And the politics in that, when you look deeply into the word of politics, the selling of your belief, meaning the way that you speak about your belief to persuade others why your belief should be taken under consideration, why they should change their belief, or strongly consider yours more so. That's politicking. What we're doing right now is a form of politicking. We think that politicking is only related to government. Politicking is an everyday thing. When you're trying to get your way to bring down the price of an item that you don't want to pay full price for, you start to politic on the reasons why you feel that. But back to the church says that we're going to believe God this way. And others said, well, we're going to believe God that way. And they both came from the same Bible. You will find, if you look up KKK and you look up KKK biblical views and go deep into that, you will find that they are going by the same Bible, where that Bible said that in the beginning there was darkness ruled the world. And then God came in and said, let there be let there be light. And it was good. And everything else was what it was. But they are following their teachings. We are misinterpreting what they're teaching. They are not even concerned about what we're learning. That's why we both politic, to try and persuade each other that we're right.
Mm. Good point. And so you bring up something too about a division of thought. So we can both read the same paragraph and come up with two completely different interpretations. And so when it comes to being able to unify our communities, because that's what we talk about here a lot, right? And we know that politics and religion are extremely divisive. And so how do you reconcile dealing with people who have completely different beliefs? Like, the last election, we know Trump and, the Democratic Party, there was a lot of division, more than I've ever seen before, down to the point where I'm gonna share a quick story. I was out selling insurance one day. I had an appointment with the guy. Pull up to his house. He's got a big Marines flag right on the wall. And so I said, thank you for your service, et cetera. So we're sitting on the porch talking. He brought up politics. And so I just asked, as a former service member, what are some things that I should be thinking about and considering, during my process of figuring out who I want to vote for? And he said, if you don't know who you want to vote for by now, we ain't got nothing to talk about. Slammed the door in my face and never came back. And just for context, this was about a 70-year-old Black man. And so in my mind, I'm in my late 30s. I'm asking one of my elders for advice politically. And because he felt that I had to ask a question, he didn't even want to talk to me about business. And so it runs really deep. I even hear people say, hey, if you're not fighting for Roe versus Wade, we ain't got nothing to talk about. If you don't vote for this, we have nothing to talk about. And so how can we break that? Like, how do we get to a point where we can have differing views, possibly find some middle ground, or if we can't, agree to disagree, but not let that get in the way of community building? Because I think that's a really big problem that we have right now. Lauren, are you in a better spot now?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, we can hear you. We can hear you. I don't know
Can
how
you
much
hear
of the
me?
conversation you missed, but yeah, how do we
Yeah.
reconcile that?
I mean, it comes down to that magic word of respect, right? If you agree to disagree is almost a weird term because most of the time when you say it with attitude, right? You mad that they actually didn't agree with you. But you have to have respect that someone has a different opinion, a different thought process, because a lot of our thought processes are built around experience and things that have been passed down to us. So, when you've been told something over and over and over again, that kind of goes into that religious mindset, right? I have religiously been told that I need to think like this. I need to act like this. I need to talk like this. I need to walk like this, right? And so that becomes habit, that becomes religion to us, and so when somebody comes in and has a different experience, it's foreign to us, and that foreign nature causes us to our brain doesn't naturally react in a positive way because now somebody's telling you something different than what you've been told this whole time. And so the natural disposition is to push back, right, instead of just quietly listen to that opinion and maybe take something out of it and maybe even get to a point where maybe they're right and maybe you've just been told wrong this whole time. Uh, you know, we fail to do the simple part, which is listen to gain understanding. If anything, you gain understanding to either strengthen your argument or go back to the table so you can strengthen your argument or either dispel what you know to be what is.
Mm-hmm. And so, good response, Laurent. You have something,
You said Lauren or Lauren?
Laurent?
Okay, no. I mean, first of all, that was definitely good. I definitely agree, Lauren. I was thinking about some of the things that even Lauren said that it's very important to be able to agree to disagree. That is something so true. I definitely agree with. We got to understand that the greatest thing to do when it comes to those situations like that is love. Watch this. God says love. Religion doesn't necessarily say love. Religion is religious. It's a ritual. But God is love. And love is okay, saying it's okay to disagree. And I'm gonna bring it a little spiritual, but hear what I'm saying, because if we can do this, then I think both of us on each side, we wouldn't really have to have a big argument about it. Is that saying that I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this.
Just say it, brother. Just say it.
Straight up. I guess what I'm saying is that even the Bible says that choose this day whom you will serve. God is not even mad. He said, you're going to choose him or you're going to choose Satan. It's a choice. So when I didn't want to get too spiritual, but I'm saying that that's why I was kind of holding up, but it's a doggone choice. God tells you who to choose. Choose one or the other. It's your choice. So if God says that we can choose and God's not mad at you for the choice, what right do I have to be mad at you for the choice? That's what I'm
Love
getting.
that.
That I didn't want to go that deep, but that's the honest truth. So
Man, that's what we're here for, man. We all got our scuba gear on. We good. Go deep. Go.
You know what? It's over. You done got me started, Andrew. Now, but this is some real stuff. Now I'm just gonna say it, and I truly believe that being religion and relationship is different. And I truly believe that people miss that. Being in a religion, doing things religiously, does not mean you have a relationship with God. And so therefore, that's why people who's in religious can hate the person who may be homosexual. But God says, love that person, love them where they are, but challenge them to come out of it. And I believe that, for example, when people who are religious look at politics and look at homosexuality, no, we don't like the agenda. God doesn't like the agenda, but God loves the person. And if we can learn to love, to see past their faults, and see what they need, a relationship, someone to love them, someone to show love in a kind way, because love is kind. And if it's not kind, it's not love. So I can't say show love in a kind way, show love. Then we can look past what they believe, where they may not align what we believe, and can love them and can help them. Because we can't help them if we're fighting them.
Love it, man. I agree. I most definitely agree. But here's the thing: we have to live in a world. We're in a world where we have to live by the choices of others, right? Because we have a voting system, we can agree to disagree, but then our life will be shaped by the decisions of others, right? And so it's really hard because we can't, seclude ourselves. We can't create our own little island, and just live by those laws and protect our children from seeing things that are outside of our moral compass. And so it's tough. How do you reconcile having two candidates that both have flaws, so to speak, or things that go against your morals? Is it, you just choose the lesser of the two evils, or how do you make those types of decisions, Andrew?
So I'm hoping. All right. So let me preface this. I don't know nothing about the Bible. LaRon, here I go. And you use that even though homosexuality is something that, but God says love that person right where they are. And the first thought that popped into my mind was God's love for Sodom and Gomorrah. Can you help me with that?
Mm.
Okay, so watch this. I love when people. I love those questions. Is that a question for me to answer?
It's whatever you want to do with it,
or a rhetorical one. I want to make
whatever
sure
you want to do with it. It's just that it confuses me about maybe not everybody was homosexual, especially those who had babies, and the babies were still being brought up, and he destroyed the way that the story went. Sodom and Gomorrah was wiped out. Everybody, regardless of who was sticking who.
Yeah. Now, this is what I would say to that without going super deep, because that's going to be a Bible study lesson and diving into the Bible, is knowing the characteristic of God. If you do not know the characteristic of God and know the different aspect of God and why he does what he does, nothing is going to make sense at all. So therefore, we can't go that deep on here. So that's why I won't do that. But we can definitely have the conversation about it.
Perfect. And the reason why I said that is it goes back to interpretation, meaning you got people who interpret the love of God differently. So you got two politicians who says that thou shalt not kill, yet one of them supports abortion and one of them don't. You got two politicians that says that be fruitful with what God gives you, or not fruitful, but be a good steward, which is business sense, and grow what I give you. And you got another one that says, well, we're going to feed you hand in mouth. So you got all these different interpretations of the same God.
Can I make a statement real quick?
Please.
And I'll make this quick as well. And the only thing, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am, and correct me and check me if I am, that the Bible said, obey the laws of the land, but above all law, obey God's law, right? And then in scripture, Jesus told them who said to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's when it came to tax, because they didn't want to pay the tax that it was asking them. That's the only thing that I know when it comes to obeying the laws of the land, respecting God first, and then giving from the aspect of paying your taxes to the person who you're supposed to pay the tax to. I say that to say this. Nowhere do I remember, I don't care what anyone else says or the opinion of anybody else on this, nobody can tell me when the Bible said vote. So you can be mad at me for not voting. If I choose not to vote and you want to be mad at me, that's your prerogative. Like me. Like if you don't want to say I don't vote, people will crucify you for that. But at the same time, we can look at, hey, well, I voted for them or I voted for them. You lose. It doesn't matter what you vote for. So at the end of the day, I'm saying this. If we can learn to stop thinking that we have all the answers and thinking that our beliefs are the only beliefs, or we're 100% right, outside of what I'm gonna say the Bible says. Disagree or agree or disagree, doesn't matter. I'm not here for that. I know what I believe. I know what it is. I know what my thing is. But when it comes to that aspect of things, if we can learn to just, again, I'll say, love through this thing, not be so judgmental, and understand that if I don't want to vote, because if you say you don't vote, somebody's going to be mad at that. We got to stop doing that. If we can do that, I truly believe that everything will be okay when it comes to church and state. That's basically what I'm trying to say. It's just let it go. Stop doing that, y'all. That's weird. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, I get it, but, and that's the purpose.
Corey,
That's the
Corey,
purpose
you
of this
started
conversation. What was that?
I said, Corey, you got LaRon all hyped up like that.
So you got to work up.
Why me? This is the only. This is what. Now I'm a believer in God, but I have reasons, and even my beliefs on it are theoretical in nature. But I have certain things that I can point to, such as just our existence. You know what I'm saying? Just our existence, or just everything. Everything ways. The way life moves in harmony, right? But like I said, how does that work for a person that doesn't have that belief? I'll take it like this, and you can answer right after. I won't be long, but take it like Melvin said in the chat when talk about with homosexuality, right? When respecting each other and knowing how to coexist in a society, right? Most people in certain religions and whatnot, homosexuality is it's taboo, right? Me personally, hey, it's weird to me, but we have to respect a person, because in all actuality, who is that person harming? These are the questions you got to ask yourself. Why is it all right for us to have our marriage between man and woman, but they can't have their marriage between man and man, woman and woman, whatnot? What it comes down to, we'll implement God and different things like that, but those are all theoretical. They're not hurting anybody. Here's another one. This one may be even more controversial. This one may be real controversial. This one catches people off guard at times. If a white guy tells you, say his home or his business, or his business, we'll say his business, and you walk in there and he says he does not want your black ass in his business. Morally, that's wrong, right? But does he have every right to say that? See, the way we have to operate is how the things that we expect out of ourselves. It's just like they say in the Bible, do unto others as you do unto yourself. I'm paraphrasing, but you do unto others how you want to live. If I have a house and I say, I want you to take your shoes off at the door, people have to take their shoes off. You don't say, well, I feel like it's my right and I want to do this and my socks are dirty. I didn't ask you all that. I have a provision that I'd like for you to step into my house. It's not about what, religion is or what's wrong or right. That's my personal space. And everybody should have the right. I think most people agree that everybody should have domain and have, the authority in their own personal space. And so, yeah, it's morally right. And a lot of these things, that's where a belief in God comes into play. So now when you have guys, we have guys who are discriminating against a person based off of their skin color or sexual preference and things like that. That's where belief in God has to come into play. But not only that, from a practical standpoint, and I'll just throw government in there one time. Without government intervention, a lot of people have to rely upon bartering systems, or they have to rely upon other people's goods or service, especially when you have a productive society. We've lost that, especially within the past 100 years. That's completely gone. We become way too dependent on government. So when you have goods and services that you can offer, the person who has that type of standpoint or has that type of disposition, they'll have to rely upon you at some point.
Yeah.
You know what? I've got to address this. First, I want to tell everyone who's tuning in, thank you for tuning in. Definitely like and share this with your network. We want more people to join in on this conversation. I want to give a couple shout outs. Kareem Jackson, thanks for tuning in. Melvin Lamont Brown, we appreciate having you here. Dr. Henley, love you. And Devin Elise, definitely check her out at Lifted KC. She's on the same mission as we are, improving men's mental health. So check out liftedkc.com. Let's see, so many comments here. One thing that I do want to touch on just a little bit, because I don't want to gloss over it. I see Kareem and Melvin have made a couple comments about homosexuality not being the only sin, and it appears that that's the only thing people tend to focus on. I have to kind of agree with that. I believe that some of that reason may be that it has to do with the social fabric, like the family structure. Some people feel that homosexuality hurts the family structure. On a different side of it, you could say, hey, to each his own. And there's always going to be a number of people who have one preference versus another. And so, to each his own, to each his own. Now, here's a question that I have. When we talk about something not hurting anyone else, Corey, you brought up a really good point. You said, as far as homosexuality, that's not affecting anyone else. That's two people doing what they want to do, right? So we're talking about politics and religion again, right? So when we talk about drugs, right, being legalized, so marijuana legalization, that's a huge topic right now. I imagine that over time, other drugs would probably pop up in that conversation, because it's really about free will at the end of the day. And so I just want to ask all of you, and this, I'm going somewhere with this, but when it comes to laws, if it's only affecting yourself, hypothetically, we can go with a hard drug, crack cocaine or something like that, right? If I decide that that's what I want to do, I want to shoot that into my body, I want to snort that into my nose, and I deal with whatever damaging side effects that is. Are those things that the law should cover, or is that just under free will and our right as human beings? I'll start with you, Andrew.
So, again, my opinion is the government was formed to address those things that the states did not address outside of their state. Meaning, if it was okay to hang people in Alabama, but it was not okay to hang people in New York, New Yorkers went to Alabama, but they didn't have any protections. But yet they all paid the same taxes to the same United States. So there had to be a uniform sense of protections. So if someone is snorting cocaine and they are now hallucinating while they're behind the wheel of a school bus, who's liable when everybody goes over the ravine? When the employer says, well, that was his right. We didn't have to screen him and protect your children. There are certain things that the government was formed so that it could unify the states and their actions. If I answered your question.
You did. Joshua, what are your thoughts on that?
So I kind of agree with you, Andrew, but so your scenario, when if somebody snorts cocaine and then they get behind the wheel and they're hallucinating, and they kill like a bus full of children because cocaine's legal. That it's a similar thing with alcohol. Alcohol is legal, and the same things that happen. So like, isn't that already happening? You have alcohol and people are using it wrong. So I think if they legalize it, do they set these rules? So if somebody's driving under the influence of cocaine, are they going to get the same in trouble that they would for driving drunk?
Absolutely. I agree with you, Josh. The thing is that's one of the things why they have them do the blood alcohol tests, not the blood alcohol, but the drug tests, shall I say, in the pre-hiring, in the screening. So they will find out, as much as they can eliminate as possible. Alcohol leaves the system also. But I don't disagree with you. The only reason, and this is my own personal opinion, the only reason that alcohol is a chosen drug, just like salt and sugar are chosen drugs, is because that they are manufactured and produced at a higher volume, which means those who are invested in it are making more money. When the army goes to set up a post overseas, they have alcohol, and then they have their rations. And this is just my experience. When the men on the moon step foot, well, they're going to pop the cork of the bubbly, because those are certain things that also give us a religious way of practicing celebration, so to speak, and keep them paid.
Good. So, Josh, you have something else to say?
I was just gonna say, like, I think that's another reason, as he was saying, that why other drugs aren't legal, because the United States aren't making money off of it like they are alcohol or any of these other things. So I think it's kind of out of spite, since they're not making the money off of it how they can. They don't want other people to do it because it's not benefiting them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Just like weed. They weren't making money off of weed until it was legalized. Now they're selling it, or shall I say, they are getting the taxes from it. So now it's legal, So when you were talking about free will, it was more like Free Willy, because Willie was selling it back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Okay, but so if we say that, here's the only thing I don't understand. So if we're supposed to have a certain amount of free will, we decide that, hey, this is my drug of choice. It's not affecting anyone else. Where does politics stop when it comes to our free will? Like, at what point is too much? So we talk about Roe versus Wade. That's a woman's body. That's her choice. And so that's too far. But then when we say drugs, which is something that could technically affect other people, we say, well, that's not too far. That's something that the government should regulate. Like, how do we differentiate between when we want the government in our lives and when they shouldn't be? Lauren?
I'm just glad that somebody finally brought up the elephant in the room, which is money. That's the elephant in the room when you talk about religion and politics. It's money. Everybody's got to eat. So therefore, if I got to eat, that means that's when people will sacrifice their religious beliefs, their moral compasses, to make sure that they eat. And that cash is king. You know what I'm saying? Money is a resource that we rely so heavily on that we don't even look at other options as far as resources to keep us going every day. And so, money's the motivator. It's the government's motivator. To keep things stimulated in the way that they want to. You look at, guns. The NRA's in everybody's pockets. I'm gonna give you money so you can vote my way. So there's kickback for everybody in it, except for, people in underserved communities. They're left to their own devices. They can kill each other off for all it matters. Kill each other off. We're good, because we're gonna figure out a way to capitalize on that too. We live in a capitalistic society. So it's how do we capitalize? And that's not foreign to religion. It's not foreign to politics. It's not foreign to anything. I know it was interesting. Is it Kareem? Brother Kareem had made a statement that we all need to travel the world so that we can see how different we are. But I would like to look at that from the opposite reciprocal. I think if we travel the world, we will see how similar we are. There may be different ways of how we live every day, but when you really start to have conversations with people, you begin to see, man, there's somebody over here in Asia that thinks the exact same way I do, and we're thousands and thousands of miles away from each other. We focus so much on our differences that we ignore our similarities, and it's our similarities that allow us to have conversations so that where our differences come into play, we can actually open up our minds and our hearts to be receptive. It's not based off our differences, it's based off our similarities.
Which introduces the word politics, because now we have to argue over our differences.
Yep.
And so, I mean, like we all know that we essentially get used politically and sometimes religiously, you know. So let me clean that up. So sometimes you'll have you know, maybe pastors who have political ambitions, right? And so now they have to check their moral compass when it comes to the party that they're representing, and what all is on the ballot, right? And you're right, Lauren. Like, a lot of it comes to money. I personally believe that lobbyists shouldn't exist. It should definitely be illegal. It makes absolutely no sense that we have a society where we're supposed to have a fair vote, but at the same time, we openly allow lobbying, you know, which we have these major corporations who are paying billions of dollars into political action committees, et cetera, to push their candidates and push their agendas. And so essentially the vote of the average person almost gets watered down by corporate interests.
But see, the flip side of that though is it's self-serving, right? It's self-serving because where one craves money, another person just may crave power. And so when you mix those two, that's a drug all in itself. You know, I'll ignore everything because I want the power. You got the money. Let's make it happen.
And so how,
real quick, because Lauren just got to understand something I've been thinking about. I'd like for you all to consider that money is not the motivator. Power is. Because when we were talking about alcohol and salt and sugar and cocaine and sex and all those things, basically, those are mind-altering things. And those mind-altering things basically give the supplier an idea of what the demand is going to be from the public, who are afraid of these people who are now altered, whose minds are now altered, on how they can always save us. You know, so if a person has too much salt in their system and now they have diabetes, or sugar and have diabetes, or salt and they have gout, and so they now know how to save us, which gives them the power. You know, if we have too much alcohol in our system and we're playing our music loud or whatever, and our neighbors are scared to come over, they now can call the police because they can now save us. And as long as they can save us, then they have the power.
Laurent, we haven't heard from you in a second. I know you've kind of been soaking everything in. What comes to mind for you? I know you've heard a lot here over the last few minutes, but what's standing out to you right now?
I was thinking about the last question you asked. I can't fully remember it in whole, but I know it was about I don't know. It was dealing with.
Uh-oh.
You might don't hear me. Come on.
We got you.
Okay. There you go.
Can you hear me?
You're good.
Yep. About to go deep.
Well, if real quick, Andrew, because I was thinking about this. I was trying to keep this, and you talked a little bit the last question about it was about the state and the religious aspect of it. And I don't know if you mentioned about the morals and values as far as how you choose opinions. I mean, what do you remember the last question you asked? It was a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, basically, let's just call it what it is. You know, say as a Christian, and I'm not talking about you specifically, but just a generalization. If your religion says that we are against drugs, hypothetically, and the candidate that you were looking at in different areas, they check the boxes as far as your beliefs. How do you choose between candidates? Is it like the lesser of two evils, or are there specific religious talking points that are just more important? Or if you cross this line, I got to vote for the other candidate no matter what. Like, how do you reconcile that? And the context that I was giving is just, for example, you have just say like a Baptist church, because that's what I grew up in. So that's all that I know. It was very strict. You know, the church I grew in, women didn't even wear pants. Like, you know, women had to wear dresses. Like, I'm talking like old school Baptist church, right? And so I've seen churches that had those similar beliefs, but over the years, they've started to endorse politicians. And I've never been able to reconcile that in my mind. Like, how can you preach out of a book that says don't do X, Y, and Z, and then bring in a candidate that is proposing X, Y, and Z, and then tell your congregation to vote for them. And so it's maybe not a question, maybe more of a statement, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I'll go back to this, that the law of the land shouldn't supersede our morals and our values. If the law of this land says that we can do this, that, and the other, but it's not aligned with what our spiritual, a man or woman is saying, then we should really consider not getting involved in that. Because I know there was a scripture that said that we can be, can I be honest? I mean, I'm just talking. I'm just talking. I was going to say it. It
Please
talks
do.
about partakers in evil. If I'm agreeing and endorsing you, and you're saying something that goes against my morals or beliefs, I am endorsing you. I understand, and I know the greatest thing behind it, because this is what I'm saying. I know a lot of people don't like people for this. You know what? It's okay though. I mean, like I said, is that it comes down to, do you believe the individual, anybody who hears this, that if a person says they're not going to vote because either way, one, we know that it's going to go the way that the system has it to go. People believe that. We see that. We agree with that. We disagree with that. But at the same time, if I don't agree, is there something wrong with me to you? If there is something wrong with me to you, then now it's time for you, the individual, to look at thyself. You feel what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, what it comes down to is morals and values. And I'm just saying that we all get to pick. If we don't pick one side or the other, I believe it's neutral. You know, I voted before and I haven't voted before. Can I be honest with you? I've done both of them. I've voted and I haven't voted. And it comes down to, you could say the lesser evil, but is there really a lesser evil? I never heard of a lesser evil. All I heard was evil is evil. You feel what I'm saying? So when it comes down,
I know what you mean. So like if I take it back to just take the last election, like Trump, you know, if I had to just put a word on Trump that everybody understands, I would say he was racist, right? And racism is wrong no matter how you look at it. And so if someone is conflicted and they say, well, racism is evil, you know, but I also believe abortion is evil, or I believe whatever else is evil, you got these two candidates. It's like, well, you know, what are you doing? So your answer is, you know, that may be a year that you just step back from the election completely. I got that right?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. That is, bro, you said something super good. We also got to look at it like this. Who in the world, listen to me when I tell you this, have we 100% on every single thing that they said agreed with?
For me, nobody. For me, nobody.
I agree with Lojo, every 100%.
You had something you wanted to add, Lauren?
I gotta be quiet because y'all got me jumping out of my.
Nah, bro, go. We want to hear it. What's up?
All right, LaRon, you and I will have a conversation right now. Give me a 10 commandment. Give me one.
Thou shalt love thy, what is it? I don't know which one. Love thy God. Go ahead.
Thou shalt not kill.
Commandment.
Boom, thou
Okay.
shalt not kill.
Say the one that you were just about to say. Say that one, LeBron. Say that one right there.
That one right there?
That's a perfect
no
one.
other gods,
Love God
before me.
Love.
Yeah, I got the point. I know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, thou shalt have no other God before me.
Boom. That one, then there's, okay, yeah.
Give me another one. I'm getting ready to go somewhere.
Is love thy neighbor as thou shalt love thyself. Is that a commandment? I forget. I know it's in the Bible. But that's not a commandment, is it? But it's a deep saying.
It's one of Jesus' holy commandments.
Which one you looking for? What you looking for?
Nah, I'm gonna go with Andrews. Say it again, Andrew.
I couldn't.
Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill. So somebody walks up on your property, and they have told you straight to your face, "I'm about to blow your house up. Thou shalt not kill." What we doing? LaRon, what we doing?
I'm gonna answer, but I see Corey been trying to get in front of me. I want to talk to you though.
Okay.
He's not important.
Nah, you can do. Nah, do your thing.
Say that again.
Thou shalt not kill. I just gave you a scenario. What we doing?
Go a little bit further, Joe, because he's went in the house. He locked the door. He called the police. They've kicked the door in. His kids ran upstairs. He's ran upstairs. But now he's at the last stance. He's at the top of the stairs because the cops haven't arrived. And now he has something in his hand, and it might not be a gun because he ain't got no guns in his house. What is he gonna do?
So
Go ahead.
I'm just trying to clarify here. So essentially the question is, at what point do your religious beliefs and you following the Bible, if you are a Christian, at what point do you face a real world scenario that makes you break that? Thou shalt not kill, but now it's do or die. It's life or death.
So this is the best way I can answer this for you. And this is really funny. I'm gonna tell you this. Let me say this first. I love questions like that. Bring them on. I'm not intimidated about you. No. I love it. But so here's what I'll say to that. First of all, what we gotta do, and man, I don't want to go too deep on this. First of all, what we gotta do is we gotta understand the context of the Bible. Because yes, we can say that, but God was telling people to kill off whole armies. So if we say thou shalt not kill, we need to understand what that really means. What was going on? What context does it mean? Because God is telling Gideon to kill. There's a lot of different things that is happening. So a context of what it is to kill and what God actually means by that is going deeper into the word to understand what that word kill really means. First of all, understanding what that word means. Because we that's using a Greek context, that's using a Hebrew, that's different languages. So the way that we see it and perceive it now is different than what it meant then. So it's getting to understand it before we can actually fully dive deeper into that. Because if we look at what it is, it was some killing going back in. So it obviously can't mean what we think it means if we're saying that.
So we got a comment from Pastor Brooks. Thanks for tuning in, Pastor Brooks. He said Joshua killed thousands to take over the promised land. Dr. Elisa Henley, she said the Bible never said that you can't protect your family. I wouldn't consider myself a Bible scholar, but I do know what you're talking about, LeRon. There are instances where God did sanction killing, essentially. And I know what you mean as far as the context, so a lot of things were translated from like the Aramaic language. And so are you saying that kill could not have been physical? It could have been maybe just destroy their empire and take over the land, or it could have meant something else. Is that what you're saying?
Look up the word kill.
I want to make sure.
Look up the word kill in its original language. That's what I'm saying. Understand it in its context. Because like I said, we're living a different day of time with murder, and people think murder and killing is the same thing. They're not the same thing. So we got to understand what we're actually saying. But see, here's the thing. The Bible doesn't contradict itself. So if we see it this way, right, but we're looking at it this way, the Bible's not off, we are. And we need to find out where we're aligning, what's really we're talking about. And that's when we understand the Bible as the foundation of our lives, not religion. I'm talking about relationships, spiritually connecting, understanding that. So that's the best way I can answer the question is knowing the original language of the word and what it means, and understanding if God was having this happen right here, obviously can't necessarily mean that in particularly. We got to go evaluate and go deeper on our studies on what's actually going on and what that means.
So can I jump in there?
Yes,
this
sir.
was politicking. So therefore, someone who had kids that went to Sandy Hook, they may be for gun control. And someone who understood a deeper version of the word kill might understand why guns are okay from the same Bible.
So let me ask this. Do you feel that our difference in religious beliefs is what causes the need for politicians and government? So if everyone in the world had the exact same religious beliefs, we all follow the 10 Commandments, we all follow exactly what the Bible says, would there be a need for the political structure that we have, or is that kind of the catch-all net to bring everyone under one type of rule?
Nah, because in no form or fashion should government come into play to try to create some type of caveat for our religious beliefs.
Well, because where I'm coming from, so I like to think of things from the beginning. This is a conversation that I had with someone else. It was very interesting, but a question that was posed to me from someone who is an atheist, like they don't believe in the Bible at all, and he said, "Well, do you think that the Bible really created our morals?" And I'm like, "What do you mean by that?" And he was like, "Well, I mean, it says don't kill, don't steal, et cetera, don't sleep with another man's wife, blah blah blah, blah, right?" And he said, "Well, imagine us all kind of like living in a village, like beginning of time, no laws, no government, anything else. Wouldn't we as a people come to those same conclusions? And so the first time a man slept with another man's wife and he got angry and he killed him, would we on our own have come to a conclusion that, hey, killing's bad, we probably shouldn't do that, and we probably shouldn't be stealing because the last time that happened, right?" And so what I'm saying is if we come to those conclusions from a religious belief, we religiously believe that we shouldn't do these things. Where did politics come from? What was the purpose of politics? Would we even have a political system if there wasn't a difference in our religious beliefs?
No.
I know it's a tough question. It's kind of all overboard.
Nah,
But
that's a great
real good
question.
question.
That's a
question.
great question. That is a great question.
I would
Well,
say go ahead.
I don't know why you ask it at 9 o'clock.
Right.
I know. We're like we got to go over just a tad on this one because I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say.
I would say the Bible said in the beginning was the word. Now I don't know why I'm on the words tonight, y'all. Y'all got me on this. I be trying to balance. But in the beginning was the word. You feel me? Watch this. First of all, if everybody was keeping up with the 10 Commandments, the world would be perfect. Let's get that addressed right now. And we know at one point there was no need for the 10 Commandments because the beginning of the world was perfect. There was no sin in the world. God made us perfect. We were in the garden, so there was no need for a preacher before sin came into the world. We don't need the structure of men. We need the structure of God. That's the foundation. Men put things in place so that we can have control over things. God don't need that. We don't need that. But in order for us to live in a culture, to live in a system of control, because man always wants to have his hands on things and control things, because of the nature of men, the nature of sin, we bring in systems so we can go ahead and manipulate and cause our agenda to be what we want it to be. So therefore, no, we did not need political structures. We just have them like before. There wasn't a king. Before the children of Israel asked for a king in the Bible, God said, "Listen, they gonna steal from you. They gonna take what you have. There's gonna be all this chaos going on. We ain't want a king. We ain't want a king." Why? You feel what I'm saying? So it was going on like the same thing now. Men wants to be in control. Men wants to have their way. That's why the king was sovereign back then. He did what he wanted to do. Men want to do what they want to do. And when men get to doing what they want to do under the bondage of sin, that's when corruption consistently happens in politics and every other area of our lives.
I need some Hennessy.
I can't argue that.
Look,
I mean, same
LeRon,
question.
you
Like
sound
same
like an
question. Go with
anarchist.
that. So, how do you look at that? How do you view that, Lauren? I know you kind of had something to say there at the beginning, but I mean, say one religion is saying so. We at some point we split. There was a difference in opinion. If you go to the Bible, I believe I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Tower of Babel. The languages were confused. Everybody went their own way. I imagine from there began to become different beliefs, etc. And so, say if one religion says kill the infidels, and the other religion says thou shalt not kill, is that kind of where government was created to make some medium? What's that all about?
I have no idea.
Honestly, is that why what was created?
Was government created because of different ideologies in a way?
Yeah, like if we go with the assumption that human nature would have created the same laws as the 10 Commandments, just human nature would have created that, right? At some point, there was some difference in which an overarching government needed to be created to make rules that we could all coexist under. And I'm just kind of curious as to what you feel possibly the origin of that was or the purpose.
And see, let me jump in there because my thought is, and Pastor Brooks said it perfectly, man's interpretation of the Bible. My interpretation said that I took a class. This guy said, you know, if God is omniscient, God is omnipotent, and God is the other omni, whatever all those are, um, didn't he place the tree of good and evil in the garden? Why even do it if his omniscience said that he already knew what Adam was going to do? You know, why even create the serpent if he knew the Omega? You know, the so before politics, man was already struggling with temptation, and man didn't create the temptation. God said, "Hey, don't touch that tree," and man said, "Ooh." You know, hey, don't follow that serpent. Ooh. Why'd you put it here? Oh, just so I can choose you over them. You already knew what I was going to choose because you saw it before you even said, "Let there be."
Can I say something right quick? I just want to say something right quick because I think this is where things get so tricky, right? Is you have a core of people that have, you know, beliefs that were taught to them, right? These were all passed down through the church, right? And then you have another core of people that either deviated from that or just never learned it, right? There's tons of people in the world that never learn anything about what the Bible says because they didn't come up under that, right? And so you're always going to have this battle, right? Because we're all coming from a place of experience, whether that experience was shared with us or that experience we experienced just on our own through living, right? And so I think that's where you always have this discord, right? Because I promise you, I'm not trying to be an asshole when I ask these questions, but I'm not the only one that has these questions. And sometimes I struggle with somebody providing me a religious response versus more of a practical response because not everybody understands everything that's in the Bible, or like has been said before, we all have our own interpretation of what the Bible says, which I've had this conversation with probably everybody on this panel, which is we are reading a book in its non-native tongue. We don't understand the tongue. Most of us don't understand the tongue in which the Bible was written. So that interpretation, when you say, well, we are, you know, we all have different interpretations, we're interpreting, what was the Bible written in Hebrew, right? So we're interpreting Hebrew and English. And Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but not every word in every language translates. So, you know, somebody that speaks Spanish, there may not be a English term for that. And so we are already creating interpretations, and we talk about, you know, the Bible was written by God but interpreted through man. Well, man is an imperfect being. So if man is an imperfect being, then when he wrote the Bible, how do we know that his imperfections didn't come out?
Right, and that can go so deep. That can go so deep because the Bible has been translated several times. I remember reading something about the Council of Nicaea, and so like there's
Yeah.
66 books of the
Yeah.
Bible, but essentially the Bible was an entire library, and we have the authorized King James version, meaning that King James authorized what stayed in the Bible and moved forward. And
We
so
know all about King James.
Right. But what I also have to believe, though, is God in His omniscience would make sure that the message that we actually need would get through. You know, so that's always the way that I've looked at it. Now, here's a question, because this all goes together. I know we're over, and we definitely got to do a part 2 on this. So I'd love to welcome you guys back. But do you believe, with all this being said, do you believe that the United States, just say Western politics as they are, does it make religion weaker? Like the ability to remain religious in a specific belief, because they take the Bible out of the schools. So as you said, Lauren, there's some people who haven't even read these scriptures or they haven't heard it. Hypothetically, if we were one nation under God, as they say, the Bible would be in our schools. Everyone would have these teachings. And as a society, we may be able to be a little more cohesive and on the same page, right or wrong. So like if you compare that to maybe an Eastern culture where I would like just say Muslims appear from the outside looking in, because I'm not Muslim, but they appear to be extremely religious. They stick to their beliefs. It doesn't seem like there's as much discord and dissent when it comes to the key principles. But then when we look at Christianity and Western culture, there's just like nothing makes sense. We all believe different things. Do you think that politics creates that, or is it something else?
Politics is just a voice for those who are have something to say. That's all politics. Politics came second.
But if politics enacts the laws that we live by, meaning one of which we take the Bible out of schools, right? And so now that conversation isn't had on a mass scale. So we have portions of the population who have not had that conversation, but then we're a Christian nation under God, and we have certain people that have. Now we have all this division. We have a lot of things that just don't make sense, don't mesh, don't go together. Whereas in some Eastern cultures, top to bottom, you know, from school all the way through, you're having the same messaging. It's more cohesive. Like, is that where some of the division is coming from?
Understand, politics did not take the Bible out of the school. People wanted the Bible. Some certain people wanted the Bible out of the school. So politics politicized it or voted for it or whatever they did to say it in a gentlemanlike manner. This is how we're going to move.
So, Josh, you had so I can tell everybody kind of had something to say. Josh, you had something you wanted to. I could tell you've been holding.
So all my life, I've grown up in a Catholic household. All years of school, even college, I've gone to Catholic schools. But I find it really hard nowadays following the Bible, or even, I guess, in a sense, believing the Bible, because, like you guys said, we have the King James Authorized Version now. I think that it's been construed so much to fit what people want it to be that we can't really believe it to be what it originally was meant to be, unless, like you guys said, we read the Aramaic or the Hebrew version, because there's just so much that's been changed about it. And it's just, I guess it's pushing an agenda that was meant for however long ago. And it's such a hard thing to follow now. And I think even like with priests, it's hard to completely listen to what they say, because it all comes down to interpretation and perception again. You and your relationship with God can only be painted by you. Nobody can tell you what that's like, because that's something that you have with him. And so I think it's hard to follow other people's words and what they think about religion.
I get that. Just a couple, man. Boy, I do not want this show to end. But a couple. Robert Hawkins, thanks for tuning in. He said quality time with your family and the scriptures and the scrolls and other texts that are older than the Bible. This will round your children and your elders out to not be distracted by what's socially accepted in this day and age. That actually runs really deep, because I read something a long time ago, and it talked about different stories and different cultures that were the exact same story as the story of Jesus. And I've always just looked at that as God has shown himself to everyone in the world, and maybe the stories were interpreted differently, but it's the same thing. I could be wrong, but that's just my thoughts. We've got Pastor Brooks. He said all religions have divisions. Muslims don't all practice the same. Jews don't all practice the same. Catholics don't all practice the same.
That's
Definitely
true.
agree with that. Robert again, he said, but that is the thing about that, though. You can't just go off the Bible. There are texts that are older than the Bible that supersedes the Bible. You need to cross-reference those, make sure you apply God's word to your life, and not just live off of one menu. There is an Ethiopian text that's completely overlooked these days, probably simply because we live in America. Look, this is a deep conversation. We could definitely go all night. And so for those of you that are on the panel, if you are available, definitely would love to have you back next week, and we'll continue on this conversation, because I think It's important. It's very important. At the end of the day, like I said at the beginning, religion and politics affect all of our lives. It affects our relationships. It affects how we vote. It affects so many things. And we have to be able to have these conversations in an open, honest, non-judgmental way so that we can find those common threads and become better as a community. And so before we wrap it up, just last words, it could be on topic, off topic, but just last words from everyone real quick. Corey, as our special guest, one of our special guests, I want to start with you.
Just want to say one thing. Always remember, like I said, religion is solely based off of beliefs. Nobody can create and nobody can make any assertions or absolutes. Nobody can give us the true assertion of how God works or anything. We can use certain experiences and different things to apply it to our beliefs, right? But when it comes between assertions and beliefs, hell, you've never heard a mother look and say, hey, I believe that's my son or I believe that's my daughter, right? They can make that assertion. So that's basically what it is. When you're talking about the mechanics, is that we all know right from wrong. We know why killing is bad. We know why stealing is bad. Now if there still needs to be an understanding for those certain things, that's where the conversation has to come in. But a lot of times our division comes because we're not willing to have the conversation, because a lot of things we operate within and I'm not going to be too much longer, but we operate within an echo chamber, and we only deal with things that are comfortable or people who we can relate to. It's like Andrew said earlier when he said, when you're studying people like the KKK, for instance, learning the KKK or learning shit, sorry my language, but learning about Hitler or something, you got to understand your enemy and understand where they come from also. But a lot of times we cut each other off. We don't want to have the conversation because it's either taboo or we just look at it's uncomfortable. Or, yeah, we try to delegitimize the other person. So it's all about the conversation.
Love it, love it. Our other special guest, Josh, any just last words? It can be on topic, off topic.
I completely agree with that. I think it all comes down to understanding. Like we were talking about last week, we can't truly come together until we put our differences aside and realize that we're not going to agree on everything.
Definitely. LaRon, man, you boy, you brought the fire today. LaRon. Any last words or final thoughts?
Now, when we get to speaking about spiritual things, listen, one thing about it is I don't force anything on anybody. I know my experience. I know about what I believe. I know what I know, and I put it out there. So hopefully my greatest thing is that anything that we talked about, that somewhere inside of you, you can benefit from this, that you can use it, that you can really allow this to simmer in your heart and your spirit so that you can make the best decisions for you and your family. These conversations are just talks to spark the minds of the people so that we can really evaluate where we are. One, as a culture, society, but two, and most importantly, where we are as individuals. Because at the end of the day, we are the ones who make the choices for us. And we have to be morally okay with the decisions that we make and not allow the world or other people to condemn us for those decisions. But I hope this conversation has helped you, and I can't wait till next week. Other than that, you can find me on Facebook at LaRon the Motivator. And if you need any coaching, mentorship, and direction, I'm your guy to come to.
Love it, man. Love it. I always love your energy, bro. I really do. And last but not least, Andrew Boykin.
So I like Pastor Brooks's last comment. It's all about the relationships, not the religion. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. Love never fails. Until my kids are starving or that person breaks through my door and I don't know what to do and fear kicks in.
So you're just gonna end on a whole nother conversation. Stop. Stop, man. We out of time. We are out of time. We are out of time. But listen, each and every one of you, I definitely appreciate you guys. I want you to stay on for a quick second. After we go off, I just want to wrap with you guys for a second. But to those of you that are tuning in, what's that?
Lojo didn't have a last word.
Oh my!
He
Oh,
don't need one. He talked enough,
how could
man.
man? He dropped so many nuggets, through the course of the conversation, man. I thought he was out of ammo. So let me go back, Lauren.
I ain't never had an ammo, man. It's always something in this chamber, baby. No, I love this conversation, right? I want to say, if I offended anybody within the confines of this conversation, I don't care about y'all, just anybody that was watching. I apologize, but I also want each and every person to understand that these are the conversations that create breakthroughs, right? And they're hard conversations. They're not, 1 hour, 2 hour conversations. These are conversations that we need to continue to have. And while we're having them, we need to start drawing better resolutions, right? As evolution progresses, we have to progress in our mindset. We can still stick to our moral values and our and all of that, but we also have to evolve with time because the world doesn't stop. So therefore, we can't stop evolving either. So gentlemen, great discord today. This was discord. This was a real conversation. I encourage everybody that watched this to please share this. Please share this in your circles. Invite somebody else to the conversation next week, so that we can kind of continue this dialogue. Because I'm bringing a Hennessy, a case, and some cigars. So y'all can bring whatever else y'all want to bring.
Well,
Ignorant.
like I said, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Please, between now and next week, do us a favor. Go ahead and share this with your network. Have these conversations privately at home, so that you can guys, can be prepared for next week. Also, we'd like you to visit our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page. Just Google Elevating Men. Visit our website. Check out what we're doing. We want to bring you along the journey because this is all about enlightenment. It's all about having very hard conversations so that we can come together and just make everything better for everybody. And so we appreciate all of you guys. Stay on for just a second. But for the rest of you, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Same place, same time.